There's the roller coaster. Where is everybody? What room? 502. Same room as the other years. Who's in here? It must be lunchtime.
I didn't have breakfast. I didn't have breakfast.
Mantra actually is most pleasing name of God. to say of Krishnamurti, Krishnamurti fell into transcendental meditation, but he didn't know how he got into it. He just fell into it. And the only difference was he could not put you onto it. Whereas Maharishi, through the Gurudev, was given the power to put you onto it. And at a given point in the movement, after living in Brazil, Maharishi said, now I must duplicate myself. For he claims that all names are his and will eventually lead to him. Eventually to him. Could a mantra name be harmful to anyone? No, it wouldn't be harmful. Is any one name actually superior to another name? Let's put it to you another way. The mantra was given to you, and there's no such thing as being given a wrong mantra. It was given to you, and it was empowered that just to pick any name at random would do the job. God has 1,000 names, that's true. So, there are those who will say, well, I can give you the name of God. I will give you one of his names. I'll give you a mantra. But they're not empowered to give you the mantra. So they're not empowered to put life into it. After all, what is the mantra? Speaking word. You put life into it. They couldn't put life into it at all. There'd be a difference. Someone has to be empowered. That's what Maharishi talked about. He said, I take great risk in duplicating myself. Because they too were empowered, whether they knew it or not. How about them? No. They were empowered. All human beings are gods, except they don't know. Fortunately. What is the meaning of life? The meaning of life actually is to learn the lessons you need to learn. Gain divine mind, that's the purpose of life. Well, we were created as a divine creation, but we didn't gain divine mind there. How could you? We didn't have the experience of the background. Like a prince born in a palace, you send him out into the world. Different schools, different places, all the different divisions in the military, what have you not. Associates a lot with a couple of people. Then you don't work. Knows how to govern. Right. What do you think will win the World Series? How did you play in the World Series?
Philly won National League East.
How's the other team?
It's either Atlanta or San Francisco or Western. Toronto, Chicago, Martin. So big one fell up. Right.
This thing used to be silly. Pressure behind you. Just to throw one ball, I'd have rolled it up there.
It's kind of like the kicker.
Now, what do you listen to? This is all well, we got that same situation. One more play left. Quarterback evaded black one in. Spree threw the ball. He fell in overboard. That took care of that game. that always will be God. It is the human that's on this long, slow progress of growth in the love, truth, beauty, and goodness, where one can finally reflect his own divinity. His own divinity earned through ages of trial and error, cause and effect, happiness and sadness, and whatever else. Yet out of all of this emerges high polished finished product. Human being will not become. Now, the human starts his trek through life. He starts with a microscopic view of life. As ages go by, he gradually increases the view until one finally sees the whole picture in perfect perspective. There's only gross physical powers, no concept of higher intellectual powers, to say nothing of spirituality. Spirituality is the last thing he learns about. And then you have to be born into that. We talked about that last night. However, the movement of evolution, all things are in the process of becoming. That is to say, more subtle and more evolved. The human, as he grows, becomes more intelligent and less physical. Then as time goes by, the spiritual aspect begins to dawn ever so slowly upon the human consciousness, along with greater growth of the intellect and culturing of the heart. So the growth from gross life to subtle life becomes more and more pronounced. Evolution is now taking on a new core meaning. The human is now learning that he truly has a rendezvous with destiny, that is to say, an eternal destiny. The soul of the human is a condensation and concentration of cosmic energy engaged in the cosmic process of evolution to raise one from human status to his true God status. Now the soul is also the focal point of consciousness in the human form. And the heart is the God nature of the human. And it is through the process of rebirth from one life to the next life, from one body to a higher tuned body in each life. This is the process of evolution. Now the process of involution was a lot longer, more tedious, more difficult than the process of evolution. But people will stop to think there. Imagine coming down, and little by little losing your awareness of yourself as a sentient being. Now the first humans were not even aware of the fact they were humans. It wasn't until the third race of Atlantis that they became aware of the fact that they were human beings. Finally then, they were eclipsed entirely, seeing themselves as sentient beings, and began to see themselves as human beings. Now the Bible says that Eve induced Adam to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. And then they became aware of the nature. There was no such thing as a woman named Eve. Eve was a spiritual aspect of the Adamic race. That's the first race. They had no awareness of themselves as human beings, is what we're talking about. But little by little, they lost all that. And if they lost all that, the next thing that happened, they became fully aware of the fact that they were human beings. This is the beginning of mind power. Now, truth of this also, there's more and more experiences and greater and greater knowledge until finally the purpose of life is fully accomplished. Then one merges into infinity. Now, during the journey through life, the soul is aware of the internal and the external world, where the soul was never born and certainly the soul will never die. For the human is both matter and antimatter simultaneously, both temporal and absolute, finite and infinite. Everybody understand that? Don't always think you should. This is why it is rightly said that the human believes himself to be in bondage and lives as though he were. And this is also the intent of Maya. Maya, therefore, seems to be, which is real when you're in it, unreal when you're not. This is also the so-called waking dream. We live the waking dream. Now, the very nature of the fact of awareness of the soul does serve as the means for the human to finally know himself as a sentient being. Full awareness, full knowledge, full mind. In the interim, to work and to learn and fulfill his part in the cosmic drama that he's entered into, or entered into many ages ago. This earth being a desired world, one can only be here if it's a great desire to be here. This is why I was saying to you the other night, last night, that you're the one that has to materialized in human form. Man has come a long, long way in order to be able to occupy this body. Because only in this body can anyone gain self-realization or God-realization. Now, many of the high beings on the other side, they're very desirous of coming into this earth. This is where the doorway is. This is where the avenue is for cosmic status. But they have not wished to come in and be lost in a glamorous manner and caught up in all that karma. Because you can come in here a perfect angel in the end of one lifetime and probably be shaking hands with the devil. They say in great religion, you would have lost all of that. Because the glamorous matter is so enticing. I'm facing the wrong direction. What do you worry about people? Real action. Now the human does from time to time neglect his duty and become selfish, greedy, cruel, filled with desire for the wrong things. I walked in the middle of the farm issue one time, the same thing happened. He's batting and playing all the things he's from me. So I said, "But you're batting, you know." He's only warned one way or another. If he does not heed the warning, he must become a cosmic outcast. And is made ready to realize the error of his ways until he again is willing to accept his responsibility. Some people call this hell. Some people know what to call it. So virtue begets happiness, and failure to follow one's duty gives one suffering and sorrow. So life is truly what you make it. For it is cause and effect, and free will can always change one's course in life. This is the reason you never stop to think it's only the human being and all of creation has free will. We will know that religion is a necessity of life in order to survive or to live with the framework of a constructive lifestyle. Now, religion does point out the parameters in which one may safely operate, and also religion does point out the do's and don'ts of life. Yet spirituality is something beyond and separate from this. It is true that evolution does guarantee completion or liberation. That's the purpose of a mandatara. That's what a mandatara is about. And as you well know, each human meant to live approximately 777 lives in a mandatara. 700 of them are taken up in survival. 70 of them in materiality, 7 in spirituality. Everybody understand that? It is possible for one, at a given point in evolution, to step on the path of spirituality. We said it last night, and you just have to be born into it. Because the soul then does take the responsibility and realizes that the goal can be reached very much sooner, even so 7 lifetimes. Then it will experience far greater happiness and pleasure at the same time to perform the task that one is dedicated to gain this eternal status or the cosmic status. Now when one is ready, the master appears, and one is then initiated onto the step path to realization. Very steep path, incidentally. And the important thing is, which is very difficult to point out to many meditators, there's no sense in jumping around with everybody that comes along. I don't care who you may be. You were initiated by the highest master on earth, on the highest path, and what in the thunder are you jumping around all over the place about? This is what I said to many meditators down through the years. But they do. We have meditators in the Los Angeles been initiated by everybody's passed through the town. And some that they didn't catch up with, they got up to Santa Barbara. This is in L.A. They're on Santa Barbara, you know. This is don't understand. And neither does the soul understand it. And when finally the soul gets enough of it, the soul backs away. Then you go into desolation. You go into misery, you go into suffering, you go into a lot of things. You feel absolute total suffering. All that's happening there is the soul's trying to wake you up. You haven't got the message. But now you get the message. the supper, you can't no longer hardly exist. Why? Then you realize something got to be wrong here. Because when you're initiating on that path, there has to be devotion. Devotion is just simply continuous practices of the meditation which you've been given. Any question about any of that, or any argument or something? I'm not saying that about you, but I know all of you know a lot of different people that are doing the same thing. And there's no way to stop them. I mean, if I tell you, no. Somebody can come back to the Friday night lectures in Los Angeles. I haven't seen you for years or so. Well, Zuka came through town, and I don't know. But I'm back again.
They move around, they've been away for a while. They call these around.
Sure, there's a lot more than ground.
Well, you know what I'm saying, but once they come back, they start flying again, and they'll just start their flying.
Until somebody else comes to town. This one's genuine. I'm telling you, genuine. He is genuine.
Is it because they get more of a rush or something out of it, than, you know?
No, I think everybody is looking for excitement. It is true. Grandiose experiences and all this sort of thing. You get those when you're marathon. Now, obviously, you got bliss when you're initiated. You never had to learn it. Some people have meditated for 10 years and not had any experience of bliss. And all of a sudden, in the 10 years, you gain a breakthrough. Then you get to realize it was all worthwhile. Somewhere along the line, they had not been faithful to whatever they were doing. So now you have to, you're trying, that is to say, test it. Now this path rapidly makes the initiate a natural person and considerably shortens the prescribed journey to one's long. One on the spiritual now takes on a new status and travels smoothly and happily to a higher and higher state of consciousness. Much of this is due to having been moved in the stream of evolution. You've been moved from the banks of the river, you might say, to the swift current in the center of this river of life. This is what it amounts to. Now, once karma has been modified, the pint to be paid now becomes a drop. Another thing, too, any other movement that I know anything about, when you meditate, it affects basically the heart chakra. In many cases, it does open the heart chakra. Everybody loves everybody, you know. You love everything. Find advantage. Only transcendental meditation has to clear the way ahead. If the way is blocked, it has to clear it. These are obstructions in the nervous system. Rigidity. Because the nervous system, when the body has to step up to a cosmic vibration in order for you to become cosmic. It's that simple, isn't it? It's complicated about it. But people say, oh, well, I mean, well, what is this thing? Oh, gosh, I thought I was helped before, now I know I am. There you are. Oh, that's an old meditation, you know. But some are in hell of shape. But they are. So life does now move more smoothly and certainly more happy. One now has also taken on a cosmic guide or spiritual guide, which incidentally is the solar angel. It helps smooth the way going out. Now the solar angel, ever so slow, the individual mind does develop as the individual goes around and around the wheel of knowledge and experience until one finally gains union with the divine mind. And when this happens, one is cosmic. But again, life in Krishna is simply vibration. Wherever you're vibrating, whatever level you're vibrating, that's your consciousness. So where you are in consciousness is also how fast you're vibrating. Now, because the process, the very much speeded up. It happens a whole lot sooner, certainly. When the human walked and talked with God, there were very few, if any, prophets. And Martin Bean that truly existed in those days. The trouble started only after the human found himself on his own in the Garden of Peace. You might say a haven of refuge. Refuge no longer existed, and the human was truly on his own. He now had to use what brain capacity he had acquired. The sole objective was to survive. There was not any easy means to do this. Out of the brain, the thinking was increasing, so the purpose of humanity was not being served. In due time, the Manu did come, and they helped humanity grow. They always pointed the human in the right direction before ever left him. But when the Manus left, humanity as a whole seldom stayed on the prescribed course. When the Manus left behind, they coded behaviors to be followed. Very little of this was followed. This was the beginning of religion, priestcraft, which also from time to time wandered into priestcraft. Alcohol was one of the first priestcrafts that we watched. Priests, before they would conduct any service or anything, would take a little snot and raise their vibrations to the level. That was it. And they began to sell the stuff. Humans been in trouble ever since. The one thing that follows the human from life to life until he finally gets rid of it is alcohol. You leave here a drunkard, you come back a drunkard. Until you finally break the habit that has to be broken here, not over there. Over there you can't find any whiskey. That's hell, isn't it? They all fix for you. Don't turn down to here, you can't find the drop. Where is it? Now, the real trouble began when you began to appreciate materiality and capitalize on it. And then he became very greedy, became very grasping. And he's ready to kill in order to procure or maintain mere material substance. And sometimes he felt it was necessary in order to effect a gain, he went to war. So war was born. War was actually born when the Atlanteans domesticated the horse. He got something to ride on, they went to war. Now some of humanity has gained the status of high purpose. To live, to love God, and to freely share, they now show the way for all who desire to come. Because they are the initiates. They're the initiates of the new age coming in. And they are all dedicated to spirituality. This is the one thing that I could not handle too well was the sins. They didn't want to even mention the word spirituality. God didn't exist and all that sort of thing. I used to tell Mauritius, how do we get this mess? And he said, next lifetime will be entirely different. But look at this lifetime. Everything else, well, he finally just wiped it out, didn't he? Wiped out centuries. People who are dedicated to spirituality, they're the ones who are walking a high road for liberation. Those who will follow the guidance will reap the ultimate reward. And those who do not must tread a lower, rocky road until they finally do see the glory of total good and also the suffering endured and anything of a lesser purpose. So the human is the whole of creation. His motto should always be, I shall not fail my God, because if I fail my God, I fail myself. For I now know I am that I am. I've come a long, long journey. At long last, I now see the end of the road. I've experienced that light of no shadow. Day by day, I am slowly being released from this blinding world, this bond of materiality. For I now am firmly attached to forever spirituality. So I now know that all this is what it's meant to be. Now, Father.
Hot chocolate. No chocolate.
Most of my life, a few years here and there, most of my life I'm over 40. Yeah. I think that was one of the cities.
Regulate what crops to grow and what soil we're in, and best to know. It's beautiful also constantly test the soil, and when water is needed, irrigation will be automatic. They'll also test the soil grass and outlet balance, and they will keep it balanced. Also, they are working now, and in the near future, I know they will develop this, artificial eyes that will see. Fax machines will replace the U.S. Mail Department, and ought to be replaced rapidly. Most shopping will be done by TV. What we're showing the other night. Now, because of scientific development and control of the weather, in the future we will be able to control the weather. The world product will be 3 or 4 times greater than it is today. No one in the world will want the food, or no one will have to labor to produce the food. Humans will have an average lifespan of 100 years. They will live with good mental and physical health, and they will never ever look below 50 years of age. You can amply taken care of. That's the point. You'll be physically oriented. You won't be physically disoriented. That's the point.
Will some of the validity of the fourth dimension now that get a little bit more structured?
Oh, the validity of the fourth dimension.
Give up the fluidity, indefiniteness.
Main thing to do right now regular meditation. That's
No.
the highest thing you can do.
No, I mean, in the asphalt now, it's very fluid. The environment is very fluid now. As the earth raises its vibrations, will that get more definite in its structure?
So he's saying that if you're in the asphalt, depending on what level you're in, you may be in an area which, you could fly, other things could be done. He's saying, are you going to go in at, say, a lower level where there's more structure, where it'd be more earth-like, even though you're in the asphalt?
It'd be pretty much like the intermediate asphalt, higher would be able to lower it all. It'd be a miraculous thing that you'd be able to do that you don't do now. For instance, if you want to create something, you're going to create it. Anything. You want to be someplace? Put yourself there, you're there. Higher level can become constant. You gain the highest level of consciousness. There's no place to go because you're already there.
Well, we have memory of the third dimension.
When you have, I'm sure you have memory of it. It's like you have memory of when you were in school and all that sort of thing. But you said, boy, I'm glad I'm not back there, The good people will be there. The ones that maybe would not be there are the ones that are of a destructive nature now. Or maybe not destructive, but of a low nature. And the vice and all that sort of thing. But it comes by the day. The next worst karma that you get, besides murder, is rape. You know that? That's number 2. That's wrong. I think like that the other day was 2 little girls. They went home from school. Hey, 9 and 11. Well, that's pretty mean, isn't it? Say that again. Yeah. That's what it's all about. Yeah, what? I was thinking, where did all those people disappear to? They wouldn't know, like the people that they weren't right had gone. I guess it must have ascended. I guess it must have gone somewhere, They wouldn't know. But in a few days, they forget all about it. What they're going, That's what we're stuck with here,
Sorry, you was around during the Christ time, Jesus Christ. Do you think a lot of meditators were there during the beginning ceremonies now?
There were a few, not many.
Not many, no.
Any avatar coming to Earth always carries with him the highest teaching of the age that he's in. So he did teach transcendental meditation, probably to the disciples and to those who were close to him, or familiar with him, friendly with him, or who respected him, loved him. They were given transcendental meditation. But it has not been taught from the time of Christ until today, present day. Nobody else had that teaching. Guru Dev required because he was a master of masters. So he was given the highest teaching. He had the highest.
Almighty Father came to him.
He used that term in life. There's not the same for that. But now, he did not give it out to the world. He did not teach transcendental meditation because he was a Shankaracharya and he taught the tradition. But he did give the teaching to a few very close to him. Maybe Maharishi. Maharishi gave it to Satyananda and so forth. And I imagine there were a few of the high swamis around him who received the same teaching. Because the swami that came to see me from Jyotirmana said that he didn't feel that Maharishi had the right to take this teaching out into the world. audience where it belongs. He said he's casting, quote your scriptures, pearls before swine. And I told this to Maharishi when we got back. I told him the swamp was bitter. He knew it too. And he said, well, Charlie, he wasn't wrong about what he said. He was right. But what he didn't understand was now is the time, the coming of the new age, that I am to throw out the seed all over the world. He said, I personally envision the spiritual generation of the world. I don't think it's come about exactly, but certainly he spread the seed. He had about 9 trips around the world. It's a long journey. The causal body is fairly well formed, and the ego is pretty well developed. The chief trouble oftentimes in hand is the communication between the ego and the lower personality, the higher self and lower self. This is due to the impediment created by evil karma and parabhava. As soon as this karma is worked out, the ego begins to shine through the personality. And it appears as if a miracle of development has taken place. All the teachings on the path of transcendental meditation should know and observe that in some cases that is affecting your nature, there may be a long continuous path that calls for understanding, devotion, and regularity of the practice. Then again, in some extreme cases, extreme measures need to be taken, and also they need to be followed. Now, there were some meditators that had so much past karma that they had to work out that it was overpowering them. You couldn't even handle it. There were times when I saw someone taken from horses in straitjackets. They lost their mind. They regained their mind later on, but they had lost it from time to time. Before they could handle it. They're rough. This is why, though, within some of the time and place, they probably would have been given a whole lot of time to resolve a lot of this before they were given the initiation. Mark says, I give the initiation no matter where they are in consciousness. What did they do? But sometimes it's pretty rough. One can not tell how long it is necessary to arrive at the completion of the ordeal, but patience and perseverance is very necessary during this process. There are some meditators today that will only be able to meditate 10 minutes a day, or 10 minutes at a time. Sometimes only once a day, sometimes twice a day. There's some who will never be able to meditate again during this life. There we go. However long time may be, it's time it has to be taken. Now again, during this time, one may face all sorts of difficulties and disappointments and failures. Yet it is one's devotion that will see that succeeds. There's a situation that often arises, and that is the relationship between the personality and the ego, our lower self. It's the personality that comes out of the ego. It's an emanation of the ego. But during the time that's here on earth, in the process of formation, it develops a semi-independent life of its own, which may or may not be in accord with or subservient to the interests of the higher self. The personality does align itself with the interests of the higher self. It can be used by the latter for his far-seeing and higher purpose. Then the life at hand does provide a rich harvest of virtues for the higher self. So the higher self is very interested in what the personality is doing. The higher self wants to use it in his own development as much as possible. On the other hand, the personality takes off on an independent course of its own and becomes caught up in the turbulent, non-productive activities of the lower world, then there's very little or no harvest forthcoming in that particular lifetime. And it's amazing how many lifetimes are a lost lifetime. One you might say, has become lost in the veil of the Maya. Two are really one only in the thickness of the veil of Maya, the physical world, which is hard and thick and fierce, so the sense of unity and the consciousness of one's divine origin is lost. This is where the false sense of I enters into the picture, and it distorts the real purpose of your life here on this earth. Although it's based upon and derived from the higher self and ultimately from the monad, it functions as an independent entity, unaware of its divine beginning and oblivious to the purpose lifetime, you get a new personality. In one ego arises many personalities through the lower worlds of illusion. Each incarnation, the new personality brings forth just certain aspects and manifestations of the higher self. And its manifestations best suited for the karma to be lived out in accordance with the requirements of the soul for that particular life. This is held to rather narrow limits as to the number of qualities which can be handled by the personality at any given life. Those who came to spirituality by intent in this life are indeed high souls who have earned this highest of all teachings brought by the Maharishi to the world in the new age. Now, as I said before, those who came to spirituality by intent, all those who came to the spiritual regeneration movement in the early days came because they wished to become spiritual. They had been born again of the Spirit. We talked about that before. But they were high souls then. So at the end of this lifetime, many of them should have cosmic consciousness. I won't say all, but pretty sure. It is when one steps onto the spiritual path that one does come into an awareness of the relationship of the lower and the higher self. This becomes a real necessity for one to become truly spiritual. One of the first things to be accomplished is to bring the lower personality under the control of the higher self. At some point, someplace, sometime, you do have to surrender to the higher self. In many cases, this was done almost overnight after we were initiated. Other cases, many years go by before it happened. Maybe a lifetime. Transcendental meditation does this in a very efficient manner. Also, there comes very rapidly the realization that the lower self, which acts in the lower world, is really and truly effervescent and is illusory. Then one is no longer indifferent or unaware of the true purpose of this life. The true purpose is to gain an absolute cosmic eternal status. One while on earth does now have one over all consideration, and that is to make the lower self an expression of the higher self. Now comes the time when we can in earnest develop the higher mind which is working through the causal body. We do this by right thinking, by right action. With this then comes the right practice of transcendental meditation. Also, another important reason for our development of the causal body is the unfolding of the Buddha, the Atmic body, or vehicle, and activate them. That comes from the physical, astral, and the lower mental planes, along with the spiritual forces acting upon it from the Buddhic and the Atmic planes. Spiritual development of the higher self provides the most powerful impetus to the development and growth of this body. This accomplishes in a few lives where otherwise would take maybe millions of years to do. Now, the functions of the physical, astral, and lower mental bodies cannot be separated in the life of the personality. So the functions of the Atmic, Buddhic, and higher mental vehicles cannot be separated in the life of the individuality. When the lower mind is exercised, it is not just the lower mental body which improvises or improves. The causal body is like a mirror, which has the ability to reflect truths present in the universal mind into the lower mind. So, where the causal body is sufficiently developed, it's in communication with the lower mental body, then this has the means to contact the universal mind to a given degree. From this comes a source of unlimited and true knowledge. This then makes one independent of external sources of knowledge. Transcendental meditation purifies and harmonizes the mind, does the direct contact, and causes the direct contact of the lower mind with the higher mind, causing one to be able to contact the universal mind. And indirectly, in an increasing measure, when this is established, knowledge with regard to the inner reality of life begins to appear within one's mind in different ways, which must be experienced in order to be appreciated. Again, there is no substitute for experience. In having the experience, one then truly knows. One does not embark on the spiritual, one does not embark to spiritual evolution until the soul has developed to a considerable degree. It has to develop its lower vehicles of consciousness, and then one is ready in earnest for spiritual evolution. The development of Buddha starts from the beginning of that day transcend those of the mind and cannot be judged by the criteria of the intellect, which the average person feels to be conclusive and final, but it's not. So the mere intellect cannot understand the fine perceptions which have their origin in Buddhi consciousness. Only if you have that intelligence will you understand.
Hi, Michael. Hi, you guys. Hi, Adrian.
I want to say before we leave that very enjoyable being here with you this afternoon. Hope we have many more of them. Again, before these days, we have a higher